Hello guys, ich heiße Vishal, that means I'm called Vishal, and welcome to our session of learning German with Eduflair. So in today's session, we'll be learning about verbs. So guys, you might have noticed that in a sentences, like suppose I want to say I come from India. What do we say? Ich komme aus Indien. And if I say he comes from India, so what do we say? Kommt aus Indien. And if I say we come from India, what do we say? Wir kommen aus Indien. So as you might be noticing, the words are changing basically for the verbs. Sometimes you are writing komme, sometimes you are writing kommst, sometimes you are writing kommen. Okay. So today we'll be learning when and how do we change this thing. Okay. So the topic is called verb conjugation. So let's take an example. Okay, there's a verb in German called wohnen, which means to live. So if I want to say wohnen means to live. So what happens is, guys, for every subject we have a different set of endings. Okay, so suppose the subject is ich. Okay, so with that the ending we have is e. So when we write down a sentence with ish, okay, what we do is we conjugate the verb. That is, this en part is removed and we put this ending. So if I say I live in Calicut, so how do we say that? Ich wohne in Calicut. Okay. So this form of the verb is called conjugated form. Once again, how do we conjugate a verb? We remove the en part that we have in the verb and we put the ending. With ish, the ending we have is e. Okay. So same way as the subject changes, the ending changes. Now let's take an example of a different subject. For example, du. What is basically du? It's you, but in an informal way, and it's once again for a singular person. Okay, so suppose I have a friend, okay, and I want to tell him that you live in Calicut. Okay, so how do we say that? Do, and now the ending that we have with do is st. So don't forget, once again we'll conjugate the verb. So if I want to say you live in Calicut, what do we say? Do. We'll remove the er and we'll put st. Du wohnst, the rest of the things will remain the same, in Calicut. Okay. Now let's take a different example. Let's say he. I'm speaking about a third person. Okay. He lives in Calicut. So for that we have a different ending. What's the ending for he? First of all, the word for he we have is er. For er, the ending we have is T. So if I want to say he lives in Calicut, how will I write down? Er. We'll remove the en part, we'll put the ending, won't, the rest of the things will remain same, in Calicut. Okay. Now, not just er, that is your he, even it, that is s, and she, that is z, they follows the same ending. So suppose if I want to say she lives in Calicut, the conjugation will remain the same. So let's take an example. She lives in Calicut. Sie wohnt in Calicut. Now the same thing happens with your s as well. The ending remains the same. Now let's move to a new subject. Let's say wir. Okay. Wir. Now what's the ending that we have with wir? No changes, infinite form. That is, we keep the ending en. So suppose there are a group of people, okay, I want to say we live in Calicut. So how do we say that? First of all, your subject, that's your subject, wir, then we add the verb. Now as per discussed over here, the verb remains in this normal form, that is en form. So what do we write? Wir wohnen, and rest you know in Calicut. Okay. Now the next subject that we are about to discuss is IHR. IHR, IHR. What is the meaning of IHR? Suppose there are a group of people and you are addressing them in an informal way. So what do we use? IHR. So I want to tell them that you live in Calicut. Okay, once again, a group of people and I am addressing them in an informal way. So I'll use IHR as the subject. And I want to say you live in Calicut. How do we write down? IHR, first of all our subject, this is for informal you. Okay. Now the ending that we have with IHR is T, just like our RSZ. Okay. So IHR won't end in Calicut. Okay. So this is for informal plural. Okay. Now let's move to the next one. The next one that we are about to discuss is Z. What is this Z? This is basically your they. Okay. Third person plural. Now what is the ending that we have with this Z? Is en. That is the verb remains in infinite form. Okay. So suppose I want to say to a group of people in a third person way, they live in Calicut. Okay. So what will I use? Z. Now as per discussed, the verb remains in its normal form, or we can call it as infinite form. Wohnen in Calicut. That is, they live in Calicut. Okay, the verb remains in infinite form. Now the last subject or the last one that is left out is again a Z, but the capital one, which is basically a formal you. Now one thing, for the formal you in singular and plural, the ending remains the same. Okay, so I'll give you two examples. Suppose there is one person, okay, I'm addressing him in a formal way, singular. I'm telling him that you live in Calicut. Okay, so first of all, for formal Z, both singular and plural, the ending we have is en. Okay, so if I want to tell him that you live in Calicut, singular person, formal way, how do I write down? Z wohnen in Calicut. Okay, now this Z has been used for singular person, okay, in a formal way. Now let's imagine there are a group of people. Okay, I'm addressing them. Okay, and I'm addressing them in a formal way. I'm telling them that you all live in Calicut. So for that, first of all, the pronoun will remain the same. Okay, and the verb conjugation also will remain the same in its infinite form. Okay, so what I'll write? Z wohnen in Calicut. This means you all live in Calicut. Okay, so these were the different examples. Okay, for different pronouns we have different endings. Okay, now one thing, till now we discussed just the pronouns, correct? Ish, du, RSZ, wir, IHR, Z, that is your they, and the formal Z. Okay, singular and plural. What to do when we have noun as a subject? So in that case, there are two categories. One is a singular noun, the other one is a plural noun. So just keep it in mind, then when it's a singular noun, it falls under the category of RSZ. That is, it will take the ending T. Okay, once again, singular noun, what's the ending? T. Okay, so let's imagine there's a person called Yash. Okay, singular person, right? I'm telling Yash lives in Calicut. Okay, so what do I write? Yash won't in Calicut. Now once again I've written won't over here because Yash, a singular person, falls under the category of RSZ. Ending it takes is T. Let's take one more example of singular noun. Let's suppose I have a student, one student. I want to say my student lives in Calicut. Once again, one student, singular student. So what do we write? My student. Okay, now this is my subject, singular noun, ending would be T. What do I write? Won't in Calicut. Okay, so this is the ending we have for singular nouns. Now what to do when we have plural nouns, that is more than one person? Okay, so for that, okay, so in that case the ending we write is en. The verb remains in infinite form. Okay, once again for plural nouns the ending we write is en. Okay, so let's take an example similar to the one that we did previously. Here I was speaking about one student, correct? My student, singular. Now suppose I want to say my students. There are more than one student. I want to speak about more than one. My students, right? So plural noun. So what will happen? The verb will remain in infinite form. So what do we write? Meine Studenten. Okay, plural noun, infinite form. Wohnen in Calicut. Okay, my students lives in Calicut. So these are the two categories for noun, singular and plural. Now once again, let's wrap it up quickly. So once again, for different subjects, we have different endings. So the subject is ish, the ending we have is e. If the subject is do, what's do? Informal singular u. The ending we have is st. If the subject is er, s, z. Okay, for all three of them the ending remains the same. And once again, this z is she. Okay, he, it, she. The ending remains 3 for all of them. That is what? T. If the subject is wir, the ending we put is en, that is infinite form. Okay, if the subject is ihr, informal plural, the ending we put is t. And if the subject is z oder z, the ending we put is en. This z is they, this one is the formal u. So once again, I'll wrap it up quickly. Ish, e ending, do, st ending, rsz, t ending, wir, en ending, ihr, t ending, z oder z, en ending. And apart from this, as I told you, there are 2 more categories: nouns, singular, plural. If it's singular, which category? rsz. Okay, that is singular noun. If it's plural, this z, that is they, plural noun. Okay, for singular noun the ending would be t, for plural it would be en, infinite form. Okay, so guys, that's all for today's session. I hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you in the next session. Ciao, bye bye.
Eduflair, education driven by passion.